All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the fastest and frankly largest accumulations of wealth in human history. But what if I told you the person behind it all might actually be, well, underpaid? We're going to dig into that pretty controversial idea, which is based on a recent analysis from ValueTainment. Let's just start with the number, shall we? $638 billion. That's the latest figure from Bloomberg's billionaire index for Elon Musk. It's a number so big, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around, right? It puts him in a category all by himself, as the wealthiest person on the planet. But here's the kicker. The core argument from the folks at ValueTainment is, get this, that even with all that cash, he's still underpaid for the value he's created. Now that is a wild claim, I know. So let's really dig in and see how they build that case. Okay, so here's how we're going to break down their thinking. First, we got to get a handle on just how massive that number is. Then we'll get into this whole idea of creating value, the why behind the wealth. After that, we'll look at the how, this thing they call the Innovation Flywheel. And finally, we'll explore what it all means when one person has this much power. So, first up, the $600 billion man. We have to start with the scale of this fortune. Because to really get their argument, you have to understand this wasn't some slow, steady climb. Nope, this was an absolute explosion. I mean, just look at this acceleration. It's pretty nuts. Back in 2013, he's a multi-billionaire, sure, worth about $4.8 billion. Fast forward to 2020, and boom, he crosses that $100 billion mark. But it's in just the last few years that things went completely vertical. His wealth has skyrocketed into a whole other stratosphere. So the big question is, what on earth could possibly justify a jump like that?
Well, that leads us right into the heart of ValueTainment's argument. They say, look, don't just stare at the stock price. The real story, the justification, is in what's actually been created.
So they're working off this idea they call the value creation argument. It's pretty simple, really. The theory is that in a capitalist system, whoever creates the most value for everybody else should, end up with the most resources. And they basically hold Musk up as the poster child for this. They kind of throw down a challenge, saying, okay, if this system is all about rewarding value creation, and it's not him at the top, then who should it be?
And here's the evidence they point to. We're talking about a new multi-billion-dollar company pretty much every 5 years for 3 decades. The key thing is that he's building these from the ground up, not just moving money around through financial engineering. He's tackling these huge, complex problems on a global scale. I mean, think about it. He turned that initial $180 million from PayPal into well over $600 billion.
And this quote from the man himself really gets to the core of this mindset. He says, I don't think it would take very long for me to make money back. I've been pretty good at doing that. See, he's confident that even if you took it all away, he could build it right back up. Because his real asset isn't the money, it's the trust that he can turn capital into creation. For him, money isn't the score, it's just the fuel for whatever's next. Okay, so if that's the mindset, what's the method? How does this value creation actually happen again and again? The analysis describes it as a repeatable engine, something they call an innovation flywheel. It's this really powerful, self-feeding cycle. Step 1, you push some radical new tech, like reusable rockets. Step 2, you build a real, profitable company around it. Step 3, you take those profits and use them to fund the next big leap, something even crazier. And then you just repeat it. You could see it clear as day, right? The success of reusable rockets at SpaceX generates profit, which then funds the massive ambition of Starlink. And the success of Starlink could one day fund something even bigger. Each win fuels the next, more audacious goal. And to highlight just how efficient this model is, the hosts make a really striking comparison. Just look at this. Over the last decade, NASA received over $228 billion in taxpayer funding. In that same time, SpaceX kickstarted a revolution in space travel on just a fraction of that, around $20 billion. The difference is pretty staggering. They draw a similar parallel right here on Earth. Contrast the government's slow, expensive attempt to build a few EV charging stations with Tesla, which built a profitable global network. The argument is that this private entrepreneurial flywheel is simply a more efficient engine for progress than traditional government spending. So, what's the ultimate result of all this? The wealth, the innovation, where does it lead? The analysis argues it elevates Musk beyond a typical CEO into something much more, an individual superpower. And this power goes way beyond just money in the bank. It's the ability to command immense resources, to steer global conversations, and to execute a personal vision with the speed and impact that you'd normally only associate with a small country.
At the core of this power is what the hosts call his monopoly on attention. Think about it. Whether it's positive or negative, anything he says or does can instantly become a global headline. That allows him to shape narratives in a way very few other people can.
This attention creates a unique paradox. The analysis points out that even when he's faced with public criticism or protests, cars being set on fire, the controversy often doesn't weaken him. Instead, it seems to just amplify his influence, drawing even more focus without actually hurting the bottom line. It's a crazy dynamic.
And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole analysis, which, at the end of the day, isn't really about money at all. It's about a potential shift in the global power structure. It leaves us with a final, really provocative question. What happens to our world when a single individual, through pure value creation and influence, begins to operate on a scale that was once reserved only for nations?